Next, we head for the Guadalupe Mountains, an impressive range that boasts the highest mountain in Texas, the Guadalupe Peak at 8,749 feet. We register for 2 nights in Van Horn at the Holiday Inn Express, which is conveniently situated in the heart of the small town. The hotel makes a good base for exploring the area, and the rooms are comfortable and clean. The Red Rock Ranch tour is a must-do with fantastic photo opportunities. The owner of Red Rock Ranch, Darcy McVie, operates the tours. She picks us up at our hotel and gives us a guided history tour of Van Horn before taking us to her ranch.
Van Horn is located on Interstate 10 and 20, the old Highway 80, approximately 120 miles west of El Paso, Texas, and 120 miles east of Fort Stockton in Midland, Odessa. Van Horn was a railroad town. The railroad came through and the people developed here as railroad businesses, and we had mostly people that came in and started business in association with the railroad, and then we had other people that came in and started other businesses along, and the 80% of the business in Van Horn is connected with tourism, because we like to laugh and say that if you stand in the middle of Van Horn and point in any direction, it's 120 miles to a movie theater, a veterinarian, a dentist, a Walmart. So we are isolated, and therefore we get a lot of tourist business. We have an interesting place here in Van Horn called the Van Gogh Gallery. The gentleman's name is Rand Horn. He moved to Van Horn and he paints like Van Gogh. So he must have moved here for the alliteration. But he does have a very unusual shop that he has a lot of interesting books in, both hardback, paperback. Some are signed first editions, and if you like Van Gogh's style of artistry, he does beautiful paintings. But he is an interesting gentleman to talk to too, so I would always suggest that people would go in and look through his place as well as the museum. The Sands Motel on the far east end of town was used in the movie that Tommy Lee Jones both starred, produced, and directed, and it was called The Three Burials. And he used the Sands restaurant in a lot of the scenes in the movie. And it's a modern day Western, and it's pretty cute. It has interesting revelation at the end. It's a wonderful character study, but we were real proud that they used the Sands restaurant, which is a nice little restaurant here in Van Horn. And south of town, we have on Highway 90, we have a lot of interesting businesses. There's a wonderful archery shop that the high school principal runs and teaches the kids how to stalk animals, but not how to kill them, and then teaches them how to use the bows and arrows to learn how to be good shots. The Marfa Prada shop, well, that's kind of a funny thing. It was a commissioned art project that I think was sponsored by the Marfa Ballroom and Art Society, and they just put the little shop in there. Somebody applied for the grant money, and they just put it in, and there's one Prada shoe and Prada purses sitting in there on shelves in the middle of nowhere, and it has the neat shoes and purses in there, but other than that, it's just kind of one of those places that you go by and say, did I really see that? And then you back up and go and look at it, and sure enough, you really did. My grandfather, McVeigh, moved here in 1929 and put in the very first gas station in Van Horn, which was the Cactus Twins petrol stop. It was on the north side of the railroad tracks because Highway 80 did run north of the tracks at that time. In 1932, they moved the highway down to where the main street is now and flipped everything that was built to face north to face south, which is kind of funny when we have rain because all the buildings drain to the back and the rain comes off the front of the buildings. But this big wide area here has become the center of Van Horn. And after he got the filling station moved down to this new location, he began building the first tourist camp in the Van Horn city limits. Now, there was a tourist camp called the Tulin Camp that was out northeast of town, but it was never in the Van Horn city limits. So Mac Bay's Court, we can claim, was the first tourist camp, or what we now call a motel, in the Van Horn city limits.
The ranch has been used as a movie set on several occasions, including Blue Sky, for which Jessica Lange won her Oscar. You'll feel a real sense of history when you see a Native American campsite hundreds of years old, or find a pictogram that someone has left behind. The fabulous rock formations, canyons, and native vegetation and animals are all on show.
It's a really good place to headquarter and then wagon wheel out Spoke in any direction, because you can go in any direction and have a national park or a state park or large museums like Midland, Odessa has the Confederate Air Force Museum. You have Guadalupe National Park and Carlsbad Caverns north of us. South of us you have Alpine, Fort Davis, Marfa, all of those neat places. And to the west you have El Paso and the Texas Mission Trail, which is really neat.